Hello everybody, this is Zach from the Horror Factory. Today's creepypasta comes from one of my viewers. Thank you for the story, Nathan. I hope this story isn't true, for your sake. Today's story is called The Curse of the Straw Man. The Indiana State Fair, vibrant and full of life during the day, becomes something else entirely when the gates close. But it's not just the absence of people or the stillness that unsettles me. It's what lingers when the lights fade, when everyone leaves. This is the story of what happened to me when the state fair closed. I hadn't meant to stay after closing. In fact, it was entirely by accident. The lines for the restrooms were ridiculous, and I figured I could save some time by slipping into one of the older, unused buildings near the edge of the fairgrounds. I found one that was unlocked, its bathroom still functional, though it smelled of disuse and mildew and a little touch of mold. I must have been in a rush because as I stepped inside, I slipped, my head cracking hard against the cold tile floor. I don't know how long I was out, but when I came to, the fair was long closed. I pulled out my phone, and it was 2:57 a.m. Panic set in. The gates would be locked, and there was no way to explain to security how I ended up here. My head pounded as I made my way out into the fairgrounds. Everything looked different at night. The same signs and images that during the daytime would bring happiness and excitement were ominous and eerie. I tried to make my way towards one of the exits, hoping to run into a security guard along the way. That's when I heard it. Faint at first, but unmistakable. The crackling of an old radio playing some country tune mixed with the occasional shuffle of movement. Somebody was still here. I was relieved, actually. Figured it must have been a security guard making rounds. Maybe they'd help me get out of here. Following the sound, I wandered toward the Old Town section, which is an area styled to look like a rural 1800s village, complete with antique buildings and mannequins and actors. As I approached the sound, the radio grew louder, so I knew I was getting closer. And the shuffle became clearer, like someone was moving around inside one of the buildings. I called out, "Hello?" But there was no response. I followed the noise to an old barn display. Inside, it was dimly lit, the smell of dust and age thick in the air, but it seemed like somebody was there. That's where I saw him. The picture I've sent you is the picture I took. It is the real photo, which is a dummy or mannequin filled with straw, sitting in an old wooden chair, his posture slouched, a straw hat pulled low over his face, almost hiding his features. His overalls were faded and his shirt was pinned with buttons and badges from fairs long past. At first, I thought he was just another prop for the Old Town display, but the longer I stared at it, the more uneasy I felt. His hands, they didn't seem like plastic. It looked smooth, like skin stretched too tightly over bone or something. There was just something disturbingly lifelike about him, though he sat perfectly still. But the more I stood there staring at this dummy, the more I could feel eyes on me. Again, I thought maybe there would be a guard there, so I called out again. "Hello? Is anybody here? Look, I'm just trying to get out of here." But still no answer. Feeling a little uneasy after realizing nobody was in there, except for me and this thing, I started to take a step back. But that's when I noticed something sticking out of his overalls pocket. It seemed like photographs. So I was curious. Despite my better judgment, I reached for it. It was a set of 3 old photographs, severely worn. The first photo showed an elderly farmer standing next to a freshly dug hole, its shape unmistakably that of a grave. The second photograph was the same farmer working on the dummy that now sat in front of me. The barn in the background of the photograph looked exactly like the one that we were in. And then I pulled out the last photo. In the final picture, the farmer was sewing the dummy's hands, but in the background, there was a coffin, slightly open, with a pale, lifeless body inside, with no hands. The barn was silent, but The sense of being watched was overwhelming now. My legs moved before I could think, carrying me out of there as fast as possible. As I fled, the radio crackled once more, and just before I reached the gate, I swear I heard a soft, raspy voice call out behind me. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. If you did, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, share with your friends, and that tells me to create more content like this. So, until next time, this is Zach from the Horror Factory.